our next session, I would like to invite our speakers to the stage. Please, Mr. Amaechi Michael Okobi, Chief Brand and Communications Officer at Access Holding, Mr. Hany Bahy, Chief Financial Officer, Sekem Group, Mr. Yourdy Roku Gaetjens, Director of Alternative and Innovative Financing Operations and Development Bank of Central African States, BDEAC. So thank you so much for joining us. So I will be moderating this panel, the plenary panel on accelerating the real economy transition in Africa and the Middle East. So we just heard about a collaboration, so let's see how the collaboration is also working on the real economy, between the real economy actor and financial institutions. So our session today is going to focus on the practical steps that are needed to support real economy actors on their transition journey towards sustainability in the region. It will explore the needs and the challenges of real economy sectors and how financial institutions can better support these sectors with innovative financing, risk solutions, and strategic partnerships. So we are joined today by a panel of experts representing both the FIs and the real economy to examine how greater collaboration, building on the previous session also between the two, can advance the SDGs and contribute to sustainable growth and build resilience across the region. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I would like to also invite Gaston Kouafoussa, the Africa and Middle East Regional Associate, to join us on the stage to support us with some translation. So, comme mon français n'est pas très bon, c'est Gaston l'associé régional de Afrique et Moyen-Orient qui fera la traduction. So, for the first question, Hany, I would like to ask you. So, from the real economy perspective, what are the biggest sustainability-related financing gaps or challenges that you face today in the region?
First, I would like to thank you for allowing this opportunity to have this open dialogue between the private sector and the development financial institutions. Actually, I believe this is very important to really have to put our hands on the real challenge we are facing in real life and cooperate together in order to achieve and reach solutions for the sake of enhancing the sustainability development in Africa. I'm coming from Egypt. I'm representing the agriculture sector of Egypt. Sekem Group is established since 50 years, and we are a pioneer in presenting organic, sustainable agriculture model in Egypt over the 50 years ago. Let's first try to share what is the definition of real economy, because it has been a huge shift from financial economy to a real economy. In Sekem, after many years, we defined our Sekem sustainability flower, which is reflecting what is the real economy. It's an integration process between economy, culture, societal, and ecological aspects. All these are integrated together, not only to achieve financial return to the company, but rather than to create a fair treatment of all our stakeholders. You can imagine we, as agribusiness, we are dealing with smallholder farmers. In Egypt, we have about 7 million smallholder farmers. And agriculture in Egypt was I think, one of the most important sectors because it represents the food security for Egypt and for the world. And I would like to see from there that creating this fair treatment for your all stakeholders, smallholder farmer, your supplier, employee, it's a very, very difficult process. And after many years, I think we successfully managed to achieve this tough equation, how to make this real economy really have value added for the shareholders, for the business, for the environment, for all the stakeholders. And we developed what we call economy of love standard. The economy of love standard is a standard that provides fair treatment for our farmers, for our stakeholders, through applying a true cost accounting. So basically, because the impact of doing financial investment related to culture, related to society, is not reflected in your financial institution. And this is made me say that this is one of the biggest challenges we are facing in Egypt. In particular, we are trying to adopt this real economy balance, because I give you a very small example. In Sekem, we try to go to the desert and green is the desert. And we go to cultivate, reclaim about 1,000 acre land and to build a community there. We have economic agriculture activity. We established schools to benefit the smallholder farmers' families. We established medical center in order to provide a decent medical treatment for all the network there, because they have a very big access of simple quality of life. And then the real challenge comes, how you can reflect all this investment in your financial statement, because most of banks, they still applying the normal risk mechanism, which is depending on spreading and financial analysis and leverage ratio. So such kind of impact, the impact of the investment, till now, it's not actually, there is no way to reflect it in your financial statement. So if I decided to make a donation of 10% to 20% of my profit to any culture or sustainable activity, definitely any financial analysis means that I reduce my cash flow, I reduce my leverage, and then we start having this challenge. So I think it's very important for us, for the real economy itself, is try to agree on a mechanism that all parties can apply this true cost accounting. Because if I cannot have access to lending, I will not be able to continue these real economy aspects. If I need to make new and develop new models, new community, I need new investment in culture, new investment in renewable energy, new investment in social aspect as well. So this is, from my perspective, the first challenge this real economy business model are facing with financial institutions. The second challenge, I think, is a wider challenge, because the accessibility to fund itself. I'm talking here about Egypt as an example, because this is, I have sufficient information. The last statistic in Egypt showed that more than 50% of the fund injected in Egypt and came from developing financial institutions are directed to the banking sector. You can imagine, because most of the excuses that the developing financial institutions have a minimum ticket size. They cannot have tools to access a small medium enterprise. And in Egypt, more than 60% of the economy are represented by small SME sectors. So this is really the core of the economy in Egypt. And if we'd like to have a sustainability and a transition of the economy in this step, I think we must have a solution and some model that allow developing institutions to have a direct access to SMEs instead of injecting it through banks. Because once it's injected in banks, significantly the Egyptian banks apply the normal risk module, because they are responsible for this fund and will be counted. So I talk more than that, but definitely this is a long discussion topic, and I'd like to continue.
Thank you so much, Hany, for that. We see the development also that's happening on the real economy side, so we're very happy to hear about all the work that Sekem are doing and the economy of love standard that you're also following. And now we've identified like two main challenges that you're seeing. So, Amaechi, I want to also direct the next question to you. So now we've heard from the real economy. We want to hear also from the financial institutions. If you could also speak about how you see the role of banking institutions in driving the real economy transition, and how can we best leverage the banking sector's role, not just as a financial institution, but as a partner to the clients on this path.
Thank you very much. So I'm here from Nigeria. Access Holdings is the parent company to Access Bank. And Access Bank, as you know or should know, is the number one bank in Nigeria. But we also have 60 subsidiaries in and out of Africa. Why do I say this? It puts us in a position where we're able to form partnerships and actually have conversations with regulators. But to address the responsibilities of the financial institutions, banks, this has always been the case. The reputation we have has not been great. And for the longest time, our institutions have been seen as profit before anything else. But at Access, I'm proud to say that we've been driving purpose first. We're not a non-profit, so we do go after profits. But right now, purpose is what's driving. There is no gainsaying that it's our planet, and we all benefit or we all lose, depending on how this race goes. So when Access Bank decided many, many years ago to jump into sustainability and pushing that agenda, nobody else was doing it the way we were doing it. But no bank or no one institution can do this alone. So collaborations have to work. As a comms person, I'm happy to brag about Access. We're alone in this. We're the best at this. But being the one-eyed man in the country of the blind is no longer an asset for anybody. So what we're driving now is collaborations. When we're dealing with our clients and our customers, we're not just a transactional lending and borrowing organization. How can we actually help you drive your sustainability agenda? How can we help you transition, particularly if you're in the area of misbehavior, let's call it. So you want to transition, we're offering ESG counsel, we're offering advisory, we're offering funds at rates that make sense. We're in a position where our capital infusion can be driven by your agenda. So we have the power to actually push that transition by letting you know that we're either going to give you this money, give you this support, or not give you this support. More and more of our clients are seeing us as partners, and when we have that trust, it makes it a lot easier. And will it get more difficult? Probably, because you have your institutions that are stuck in their ways, that are wasteful by design of whatever it is they're involved in. So, collaborations, working together, offering advisory services, doing more than just the transactional bank-customer relationship. These are the ways in which we're trying to actually turn this around and support the initiative.
Thank you so much, Maestro, for that. And seeing also that you're going beyond the lending approach, also looking at ESG and advisory services, this really does demonstrate the true partnership as well between the FIs and the real economy. So, Yourdy, if I may also ask you, so now that we've heard from a financial institution, but also from a real economy actor, how are FIs in the region, or how is BDEAC as well, adapting their products, risk approaches, or investments to meet the emerging real economy needs, as we just heard?
Étant donné tout ce qui a été dit, selon vous, comment est-ce que la BDEAC adapte ses produits, son appétit pour les risques et autres process en interne pour la transition pour soutenir la transition de l'économie réelle?
Je vous remercie pour la tribune accordée à la BDEAC. Je en ce regard saluer toutes les personnes présentes dans cette salle, tout en exprimant le plaisir que j'ai à être ici. Donc, je suis effectivement Yourdy Roku, je suis directeur des opérations de financement alternatif à la BDEAC. La BDEAC est la banque de développement des États de l'Afrique centrale, qui est l'institut de financement qui finance justement le développement en Afrique centrale. L'Afrique centrale est une zone composée de 6 pays, le Cameroun, le Congo, le Gabon, la Guinée équatoriale et le Tchad. Donc, c'est un plaisir pour moi d'être ici, d'inviter à Marrakech et à cet événement. Maintenant, pour ce qui est de la question sur comment la BDEAC agence effectivement son appétence au risque pour financer l'économie, il est important de préciser que la BDEAC, depuis très peu, a fait sa mue sur les questions de durabilité. Donc, nous sommes actuellement dans un processus qui nous permet effectivement de pouvoir adresser ces questions. L'une des principales modifications qui ont été apportées, je voudrais également préciser que l'appétence du risque au niveau
Yourdy started by expressing his gratitude, thanking everyone for being here for him, and proceeded with introducing his position. He's the Director for Financing and Alternative Operations at the Bank of the Development Bank of Central Africa, which covers 6 countries: Cameroon, Gabon, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Congo. And he proceeded by responding to the question. He says, BDEAC has, for the past few months, been undergoing structural changes to bring at the fore of their operations and sustainability, including making and supporting the real economic transition a priority for the bank.
Alors, à la BDEAC, nous avons des modalités d'intervention qui intègrent justement l'appétence au risque. Et la difficulté que nous avons au niveau de notre sous-région, c'est que l'appétence au risque, tel que cela a été rédigé avant notre transition, n'intégrait pas clairement le financement des projets sur les questions de durabilité. Il a fallu justement que nous intégrions la compréhension que nous avons effectivement dans le financement des projets durables, excusez-moi, en ajoutant, en retirant l'évaluation, en retirant l'évaluation des risques et en permettant effectivement que, je ne sais pas si it's very difficult French and English. Okay. Alors, ce que je suis en train de dire, c'est que l'appétence des risques au niveau de la BDEAC voudrait que les projets accompagnés par la BDEAC soient de risque modéré, c'est-à-dire risque bébé. Or, nous savons tous comment on évalue les risques. Dans l'évaluation des risques, on prend des critères, le risque financier, qui intègrent effectivement la rentabilité, les flux trésoriers. Or, en intégrant ces critères, on enlève effectivement la capacité de pouvoir accompagner des projets durables. Raison pour laquelle la BDEAC est en train de réfléchir sur la modification des modalités d'intervention, par conséquent l'appétence au risque, pour intégrer la particularité des finances, de la finance durable, qui intègre effectivement les questions environnementaux et minimise les questions de risque financier et les questions de rentabilité.
Before now, the sustainability lens was not taken into consideration when the bank was assessing the financing, the projects of financing that it received. But going forward, the threshold which have been held by the bank, like say, risk appetite for project that whose risk is BB, is now being revised to take into consideration sustainability considerations, which will now make the bank more able than it was before to finance our sustainability related projects in the region.
Thank you so much for that answer, and seeing also the enhanced risk appetite. Also, that's very great to hear and see the progression as well within the banking institutions. So this is a question that I would like to ask to everyone. So perhaps if you can answer also in order of seating, is that looking ahead, what needs to change in your opinion, whether it be to regulation, risk appetite, or even partnerships, to effectively scale up sustainable finance and the real economy transition in the region? So I might perhaps start.
If I talk to risk first, there has to be a shift on with regard to how we treat risk. The initiatives we engaged in before now didn't consider things like climate risk, didn't consider social risk. So we have to rejig the entire process for assessing risk. Collaborations and partnerships is huge. It's huge for Access, it should be huge for all of us. And it's not just partnerships between the banks and the clients, but it's the banks, it's the clients, it's the regulators, it's policymakers. No one institution can do it together or by themselves. So this has to be top priority. In terms of regulation, I think we've been more passive. We haven't been as proactive as we should be. And we see now that we're in trouble. It hasn't worked. So we need to be a lot more proactive in terms of the policies that we're putting in place, the regulations we're putting in place, and how we're actually guiding this process.
I think applying the true cost accounting is a very important factor to improve the sustainability development, because you should compensate any business model who would like to transit into sustainability and encourage him to do social and cultural and environmental activity. So if we succeed, of course, to define what is the true cost accounting and how developing banks can reflect it in any business model that seek sustainability transformation, I think this is very important. And I think in Egypt, it's have been a little bit started, because with the presenting of the voluntary carbon market in Egypt, and have been some accounting standards started to be published for the recognition of the carbon credit. But again, I think in Sekem we developed a very nice example, because we prepared our own financial statement based in a true accounting methodology. And we can imagine what is the significant difference between traditional financial statement and financial statement prepared according to true cost accounting. You significantly improve your ratios, your financial position, your health. And unfortunately, this will need to be cooperation and support from government and from all stakeholders to make this kind of standard doable and acceptable, and encourage all small business to adopt it within its business.
Quelle est votre perspective sur les changements qui doivent être mis en place, qu'elles soient réglementaires, en termes d'importance de risque ou en partenariat, pour s'assurer de l'augmentation de la finance durable dans la zone, dans la région, ainsi que soutenir la transition de l'économie réelle?
Sur le plan de bien même elle est embryonnaire. Par contre, la grande modification qu'il faudra faire, c'est plutôt une appropriation par les hauts dirigeants, par aussi bien au niveau public que privé, des questions justement de réglementation environnementale, afin que la sensibilisation et l'appropriation se fassent. Je pense que aussi bien les banques centrales, les ministères de l'environnement et la plupart des banques commerciales intègrent effectivement les questions de réglementation. Mais le véritable problème est leur implémentation et leur appropriation. Le deuxième point, c'était sur la puissance des risques. La puissance des risques, effectivement, j'ai parlé tout à l'heure d'une modification au niveau de nos modalités d'intervention, en intégrant le fait que la plupart des projets environnementaux ne sont pas forcément des projets rentables. Donc, quand bien même on ne modifierait pas totalement la politique d'appétence des risques, mais il faudrait intégrer au niveau du BDEAC le fait que la configuration et la caractéristique des projets climatiques ne sont pas forcément des projets rentables. Et le troisième point lié effectivement au partenariat, alors à 3 niveaux. Pour la question des ressources, il faudrait savoir que les ressources que nécessitent effectivement les projets généraux sont des financements longs et à l'état concessionnel. Or, malheureusement, le constat voudrait que, au niveau de la sous-région, nous mobilisons en général des lignes autour de 6%, ce qui est relativement cher, et à des maturités de 6-7 ans. Ce qui veut dire qu'elles sont incompatibles effectivement aux questions effectivement de réalité. Le deuxième point, Gaston.
So he says, for example, in the Sekem region, in terms of regulation in that region is still at the baby infancy stages. The problem as well is with implementation. Even with the countries who already have sort of like implementation around climate finance or protection of environment, there's a problem with the people actually implementing this, and there's a need for support from the political class for this to be done. And on risk appetite, you mentioned that green projects, sustainability projects, the key challenge in the region is that they're not really bankable, and there's a need for that to be understood in banks, that profitability will not be immediate, but there's a support that can be provided to persons that are having such projects to implement them or put them in place. On the third point of partnerships, he mentioned resource mobilization, basically access to finance, and the fact that these are generally long-term and should be obtained at concessional rates. Meanwhile, in the region, the resources that are mobilized in terms of financing are gotten, for example, at 6%, and are generally for 6 to 7 years. So there's a mismatch in tenor and also in terms of the rate, the pricing of those financing.
Oui, le deuxième volet de partenariat, c'est avec effectivement sur les questions effectivement de durabilité, les fonds verts climat, les fonds d'adaptation, qui nous permettraient effectivement de mettre en position de la zone. Et le troisième point, qui est également le plus important, un des plus importants en termes de partenariat en interne, et je prendrai un exemple par rapport à cela, c'est qu'il faudrait que les pays de la sous-région aient des positions communes, puissent défendre des positions communes. J'ai assisté, lorsque j'étais à l'époque représentant au Gabon, à une conférence sur la pêche tonnière, financement et incidence sociale et environnementale, au cours de laquelle avaient été invités des gens de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, la Mauritanie et la Côte d'Ivoire, et également des Norvégiens qui venaient partager avec nous leur expérience sur la pêche tonnière. Mais cependant, j'ai remarqué l'absence des autorités des pays de la zone équatoriale qui partagent effectivement les mêmes eaux que le Gabon, c'est-à-dire le Cameroun, le Congo, la Guinée équatoriale, Sao Tomé, alors qu'en fait nous avons des questions communes Et ces pays en principe doivent pouvoir se parler pour pouvoir effectivement influencer les financements et les opérations qui se passent sur ces zones-là. Merci.
So the last point you mentioned on the partnerships is the need for financial institutions in the region to have capacity building and also to get accreditations to organisms like the Green Climate Fund. The last point you mentioned, which is actually the fourth, is about the need for the regional integration in CIMA to be materialized, which will make the region to have a common viewpoint or common standpoint on issues related to climate finance. And he cited the example of when he was representative of the bank in Gabon, where there was a meeting that happened to discuss on high sea fishing. And all the other countries that are involved in the Congo Basin were there, but some countries were not present, meaning that they didn't really have a position on this. And so there's a need for the region to come together on critical questions and have a common standpoint so that they can have the partners coming to support them.
Thank you so much. So this is very insightful looking at. I see regulation also comes a lot in the discussion, and perhaps the collaboration here is very extensive and beyond the real economy actors and financial institutions, but also within the government, the various ministries themselves as well, to address what are the needs on a national level, how can they work together. So if we're looking at the conversations between the central banks, for instance, and ministries of agriculture, for example, in Egypt, looking at the example of Sekem, aligning with seeing how the banking sector can actually be a driving force for the implementation and the achievement of the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, or the national goals, actually, of the countries, and seeing the need for a shift from risk to opportunities, to identifying the values of these, as well, investments from the bank and the support from the banks. So this is something that will come as well, as you mentioned, as you rightly mentioned, Yourdy, with capacity building and understanding the value of these elements as well, that although the impact, the positive impact may be on the long term or all that, but in the end, it does have positive financial returns as well. So this is a conversation that also needs to be happening. But I want to ask you also from a financial perspective as well, if you can give us some examples or practical steps on things that you're currently doing at the bank in your conversations with the real economy sector, and how they're supporting your work ongoing. So for Amaechi.
So we're looking at a facility, a transition facility that players will have access to, with certain guidelines, obviously, that you've addressed and has been addressed today. But the idea is to show that we have skin in the game and set the rules through which these funds will be assessed. And that's the key thing that we're pushing right now. So more to come, more to follow, but we'll share that when we're able to, but we are working on that.
Thank you so much. And Yourdy also, if we can ask you the same questions.
Y a-t-il des exemples concrets, des actions, des facilités que vous êtes en train de mettre en place pour soutenir la transition de l'économie?
Très précisément, déjà, comme je l'ai dit dans le propos introductif, nous sommes dans une transition au niveau de la banque. L'action la plus déterminante que la banque ait posée est la création d'une direction dédiée. La direction des opérations de financement alternatif, qui en principe devrait pouvoir agir comme un guichet régional pour les financements des projets durables. Ça permettrait, un, de gérer les questions de structuration des projets durables, et deux, d'agir dans la mobilisation de ressources dédiées. Donc je pense que l'action la plus déterminante a été la création en 2024 de cette direction.
So the main thing that was done in the past few months was the creation of a dedicated department for innovative and alternative financing, which will henceforth serve as one-stop shop for sustainability financing in the region of the bank.
Thank you so much. I think that kind of also shows how the traditional banking approaches have been shifting over the past few years. That it's no longer a transactional relationship, but there's actually more to it in terms of the support and, as mentioned, becoming a one-stop shop as well for the banks. For the clients. So I also have a final question to ask our speakers. If we can have a quick lightning round where you can share a low-hanging fruit or one action by your entity or sector in such case that can happen to accelerate all that we've been talking about and enhance and strengthen the relationship between the real economy and the FI. What advice would you be giving to kind of conclude your comments? So perhaps we start by you, Hany, to provide from the real economy perspective first.
I think it's all about having this continuous dialogue and keeping in discussion together about how to achieve this kind of transition. Actually, it's not an easy transaction, it's not a smooth transaction, but definitely it's a journey including many upsides and downs. And I would like here also to emphasize that the challenge of the sustainability transition is not a good to have, it's now you must have, because we hear about the Sekem regulation. And this regulation make all the sectors will be mandatory and required to adapt to a certain level of environmental activity in order to reduce carbon emission and enhance its level of environmental activity. Otherwise, it will go out of market. So in Egypt, many sectors like steel sectors, petrochemicals, cement sectors, all these sectors are now suffering. If they are not well prepared from now and start to find someone who guide them, provide them with the tools, provide them with the technical advice and support, how to transfer the model from to be a sustainable business model. Otherwise, you will be out of market, you will not be able to export to Europe, you will lose sales opportunity, the economic of the business will be disappear. And that's why in Sekem we are trying to make such collaboration. We are trying to present a real solution for these sectors by our economic flood standard, because we are providing a real carbon credit mechanism which can use internationally recognized, which could be used to offset the carbon emission of any industry. But this is very difficult to be done slowly by a private entity. We should cooperate with all financial regulation. We should have support from financial development institutions to finance this journey and to provide technical support to small enterprise to make them adapt to the shifting. We need support from Ministry of Agriculture because we need to approach, instead of 10,000 farmers today, we need to reach 40,000 farmers in 2 years. We need support from Ministry of Environment in order to provide a lot of incentive to companies in order to promote environmental development. So I think it's all about only the big economy or private sector will not be able to do, but this must be done with all these kind of collaboration and discussion in order to reach the development of human and people and the sustainability transformation of all the economic sector in all Africa and Middle East.
Pouvez-vous nous dire une action qui devrait être prise par le secteur financier, par les décideurs publics ou la BDEAC pour accélérer la transition de l'économie réelle et solidifier la relation entre les acteurs de l'économie réelle et le secteur financier?
Alors, la principale action, et je l'ai dit également dans le déjà une appropriation de ces questions, une implémentation de ces questions et une discussion de ces questions, non seulement dans les entreprises qu'elles gèrent, mais surtout dans l'écosystème autour, c'est-à-dire tout ce qui est prestataire, tout ce qui est fournisseur, tout ce qui est client. Parce que, je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, les textes existent, la réglementation existe, mais il y a un problème de volonté, il y a un problème de vision, ce qui fait que la principale action qui devrait être faite est bien entendu une appropriation de ces questions-là par le top management, aussi bien dans le secteur public que dans le secteur privé. Merci.
So the key action that is to be taken is taking ownership of the sustainability conversation. Because like you have mentioned before, there are already regulations and some laws in countries, but the main problem is about implementation. And therefore, whatever strata people find themselves in, they need to take ownership, they need to implement and also create dialogues around these topics, not only within the financial sector, but around the whole ecosystem, taking into consideration suppliers, customers, and other stakeholders.
Small conversations like these, if you look in this room, and we're at 100% capacity, so what's happening all around Africa, what's happening in the Middle East. So it's more conversations, it's more amplification of these conversations. The world must know it's getting better, but we're not there yet. Sustainability and this transition isn't seen as exciting just yet. It doesn't have the draw that it should have. So we need to shout this shout more often, more aggressively, and amplify that. And as we achieve, no matter how small the achievements are, amplify that. The more milestones we cross, the more people see, the more organizations see that there is a change and it is happening. And the little they do can actually make an impact. The more they encourage to actually do more, do better. So it's really just the education piece, the amplification piece, and many more conversations like this one.
Thank you so much for all of your interventions on this session. I think in conclusion, we can see that the collaboration seems to be the theme for this morning. So seeing the collaboration that is needed between the banks and the clients and customers, which is, by the way, going to be a workshop that's happening tomorrow also to address how banking institutions can actually have this fruitful and effective conversation with their clients. So I also encourage you all, for all the banks with us in the room, to join this session tomorrow. And also seeing, one of the points that was touched on is having a regional voice, like a regional viewpoint as well. So I think the collaboration here goes even beyond by having the conversations between the various countries in the regions, between Africa and Middle East. And I see that this is where the role of also the SBFN also can come in. So I see the continuation of the conversation on that aspect, and also having the ownership in that sense. So we see that there is a shift, not only from the banking institutions, but also from the various sectors, from the real economy sectors as well, and neither of them can do it alone. So the real economy needs their partner, the financial institutions, to support them on this transition. And the financial institutions need to see also the momentum from the real economy, but also the support from the regulators. Incentives, for instance, from regulatory bodies to banking institutions or insurance sectors on how they can support the real economy, how can they target specific sectors that are of importance to the various countries, for instance. So thank you so much for enriching the discussion, and thank you for sharing your views. And we look forward to continuing this conversation throughout today and tomorrow. So thank you so much again, and to everyone, please share a round of applause to our speakers.